I know it's a little chilly. I'm already in trouble with the coach. He told me to make the introduction short, so I think I'm already in trouble with him. So we'll try to get things rolling and make things go right. Right, Don? Are you going to keep an eye on me tonight? All right, he's in charge. So we'd like to welcome you all and thank you for joining us this afternoon. It's our pleasure to have you here. And obviously we've been working on the bank for quite a while. And I'd like to thank everybody for your patience in working with us through the, Beth, you're supposed to be up here, by the way.
I was happy here.
But I want to thank you for putting up with our construction over the last couple of years. It's been kind of a labor of love, and again, we want to thank you for your patience with that. So I hope you think it's worth it. We at the bank think the 2 years has been really worth it. So first off, we couldn't be happier than to be partnering with the Teammates organization and Tom Osborne in dedicating our renovated building. And our theme today is investing in the community, and that's what Teammates does, and that's what we have been doing with renovating our building and continuing to do everything we can for our community. I've been told by my kids not to tell any jokes today, so I'll have to pass on the bad jokes that I had, so I hope you're all happy with that I'm not doing that. Right, Don? I know you're happy I'm not telling those bad jokes. But today wouldn't be possible without a lot of the help of a lot of the folks that are here in the audience today. So I want to thank everybody who's been involved with the project in any way, shape, or form. But I'd like to specifically mention just a few folks that were special in making this happen today. Number one is my grandpa. I mean, Earl Wilkins. A few of you remember Earl, and Earl really got this whole thing going. And Earl had a passion for our community and for community service, and he's really the guy that got things going. So I've got a picture of Earl in my office, and his eyes follow you across the room. It's a very lifelike picture, so whenever you want to come in and say hi to Earl, stop in my office and you can see the picture of Earl up on the wall and say hi to him. I also want to thank my Uncle Hugh, and a lot of you knew my cousin Cam. I want to thank them for continuing Grandpa's tradition of serving the community and investing in the community, and they kept that going. I also want to thank my family who's here in the front row for supporting us in this kind of investment for the community. And most importantly, I want to thank all of you, our customers, all of you in the community, all of our associates in the bank for helping make this happen. And it's great to see. Also, where's Deb Gross? Deb. Deb Gross is our Human Resources Director, and she's also a Teammates mentor. And this was Deb's idea. So I just want to thank Deb for suggesting that we do the Teammates event today, and she's had a lot to do with getting this going. So thank you, Deb. Also, our architects are here. You guys did a great job. I think everybody's really pleased with how it turns out. We've got the best architects, and they did a super job of dealing with a very complicated project. So you guys did a super job. Lastly, Arnie. Arnie's everybody's favorite. Arnie Gauber is our construction superintendent. I think you'd all agree, Arnie is the best in the business. And Arnie, I know I've said it time and time again over the last couple of years, we could not have done this without you. And so we want to thank you from the bottoms of our hearts, and you've done a great job making sure this place got put together. So thank you very, very much. And just as Teammates invests in the community, so do we. And so I think that's why there's a great tie-in today between what Teammates does with the youth of our community and what our bank has been doing throughout the years and plans on doing for a number of years for our community to help and continue to invest in the community. And I'd like to introduce my family, who's over here in the front row. I guess it would be easiest just to go down the line here. My sister Margaret Kilgore is on the end. my mother, Gladys Grothy Wilkins. My cousin Charlie's back here too. But my mom's over here, my dad, Bob Wilkins, my cousin Susie, my cousin Tom, and my aunt and uncle Nancy and Bill Wilkins. So it's great to have you all here today. Oh, and Beth's back there. That's why you spoke together, so I wouldn't forget you. My Aunt Beth's back there, and obviously you all know my Uncle Hugh. So glad you all could join us today. It's great. So now who did I miss? Oh, Rob and Diane made it. You know, there's always a party crasher. You know, it figures it's the LA crowd that comes in late to a party. I'm really glad you guys could make it. I didn't think you guys could do this. This is my younger brother, Rob. Actually, it's my older brother, Rob, and his wife, Diane. So thanks, you guys, for making it. Boy, that's an entrance. Well done. See, Don, I didn't need a joke. I had Rob. So with that, I'd like for Hugh to just talk a little bit about our bank and our family's commitment in the past and in the future to Geneva.
I mentioned about 3 dates, make about 3 comments, and I'm going to sit down. The first date is back in 19. I want you people to realize that there are a bunch of buildings there on the east block and the west block that date back to 1887. So banking in this community, one way or another, goes clear back into the 1880s. You can see those dates on some of those buildings. The next date I want to mention is this courthouse. That courthouse was built in 1893. And then another date I want to mention is the date that my dad went to work for the Geneva State Bank. That's back in 1908. And then a couple more dates after that. I've worked for our county and our town, our state. The first 2 irrigation wells were drilled back in 1956, I think. That was a big event. And then finally in 2013, most of our staff was there with desktops on, so that was a big thing. They actually do some work. Okay, my comments are that I can remember my dad told me a lot of court history, though, that I have absorbed. But land after 1918 was around $100 an acre. And my dad would tell me that after World War II, the price of wheat went down, the price of land went down. Some people had mortgaged their farms, first farm to get a second farm, and lost both of them. So in my dad's memory and my memory, we've seen the price of land come down from $100 to $40, and up to, guess what, $10,000 or more. It's just hard to believe. Also in my memory, I've seen corn go $10 a bushel, 10 cents a bushel in the early 1930s, and last year we saw it hit $7. Now I have one more prediction to make. That is, 90 years from now, people will still be putting money into financial institutions and then borrowing money.
Thanks, Hugh. Thanks a lot, Hugh. I hope that's true. Next, we've got Mayor Norrie, who will make a couple of comments. I think all of you know that Rod played football at Nebraska and lettered in 1972. He was a defensive tackle. And probably more important, Rod is also a teammate's mentor. So Rod, come on up.
First of all, I'd like to introduce you to my new mentee. I think we've been together about 6 weeks now, haven't we, TJ? This is TJ Ellis. We get along real good. He beats me in checkers once in a while. We play him on the iPad. If I start getting ahead of him just a little bit, he flips it over so he makes sure he wins. So I don't have much of a chance. TJ's still working on his speech. He said that maybe when I got done, he'd give something. So he's working on that yet. Good afternoon. It is my honor and pleasure to be here today representing the City of Geneva and also a member of the Teammates program. I commend Geneva State Bank for their investment and commitment to the citizens of Geneva and the surrounding area. You have made a huge improvement to Main Street that complements the other recent updates that have taken place the last few years. Last week, Main Street seems to have lost one of its landmarks with the removal of the large roll-off dumpster that's occupied the east side of the bank for the last year or so. So thank you, John. I'm sure that all the bank employees and officers are anxiously looking forward to working in this new environment. As a new member to Tom and Nancy Osborne's teammate program, being a mentor to my new mentee for approximately 6 weeks, Mrs. Atkinson, the local teammate director, had hinted if I could put a plug in for the teammates. And after giving it some thought, I wanted to share an experience with my teammates that came my way in 1970. And also, I was going to share this with TJ the other day, but I told him, I says, no, I'm going to wait, and I want to share it with all the teammates. In 1970, I was a 17-year-old senior in Geneva High School, being recruited to play football for the University of Nebraska, and was invited with a few other recruits to attend a home football game in Lincoln by then head football coach Bob Devaney. Before attending the game, we were served a meal at the training table. After the meal, we were walking to the stadium when a tall, red-headed man approached me and asked me, "How are your grades?" As a 17-year-old kid, it really caught me off guard. My first thought was, what do grades have to do with playing football? At that time, little did I know that one of the requirements to be awarded a scholarship to play football, you must meet certain criteria pertaining to grades to enter college, not only as an athlete, but to enroll in college as a student. That is one reason, teammates, why it is so important to become a good student at a young age. It was questionable as whether or not I would be eligible for a scholarship because I had not applied myself to schoolwork the way I should have. The remaining of the school year, I did apply myself to schoolwork and receive a football scholarship. But if I had applied myself much earlier in school, my athletic grade eligibility would not have been an issue. As an in-state recruit, I was being recruited by assistant football coaches Cletus Fisher and Jim Ross. And at that time, I had no idea the tall, red-headed man was Tom Osborne. What I thought unusual about my initial acquaintance with Coach Osborne's questions pertaining to my grades was that the other recruiting visits that I had been on, the coaches wanted to know your 40-yard dash time, how much you bench pressed, or how many tackles you had in the previous games. Grades seemed secondary, but Coach Osborne's first question was, how are your grades? So take note, mentees, when Tom Osborne inquires about your grades, that question has been with him for a long, long time. I did go on to accept that scholarship to play football for the University of Nebraska and did play enough to earn a letter. But I'm equally proud of the fact that I also graduated from the University of Nebraska. Again, I want to congratulate Geneva State Bank on their new venue and wish the best of banking business to them and to the mentees. Be a good student, right, TJ? Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Rod. And now I'd like to introduce Becky Atkinson, who is the K-6 guidance counselor here in Fillmore County and also the local chapter coordinator for teammates.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to this great event, and I have a few thank yous to start out with. First of all, I would like to thank Geneva State Bank for including teammates in this important event for them and showing that they are investing in their community by supporting teammates mentoring program in our schools and in our community. I also want to thank Geneva Java for providing the refreshments and a place to have our reception earlier this afternoon. That was just wonderful, and I'd like you to give them a round of applause. I'd also like to thank Dr. Osborne and his wife Nancy for having the vision to start such a program as teammates. Thank you for coming tonight to meet our mentees and our mentors. It meant a great deal to us, so thank you. I'd also like to thank our Fillmore Central Administration and Board of Education for supporting teammates in our schools as well. If there are any school board members here, if you just raise your hand, or administration, please raise your hand. Thank you. As the teammates coordinator for Fillmore Central, I've had the opportunity to see firsthand the positive impact a mentor has on a student, and it is inspiring. I encourage you to consider becoming a mentor and investing in the life of a student. As a mentor myself, I know the impact that it has made on my life as well as my mentee's life. And I would like my mentee to stand up. She was too shy to come up here, Miranda Elsing. We currently have 28 active matches in grades 3 through 12, and we have several more students right now who are waiting for a caring adult to mentor them. Please contact me if you would be interested in supporting and encouraging a student for just 1 hour a week through Teammates. At this time, I would like to recognize the Fillmore Central Teammates mentors and mentees that were able to join us for this event. If you would please stand if you are a mentee or a mentor. Thank you to our mentors for your commitment to the Teammates program and mostly to our students. You are the real heroes who give of your time to make a difference in the life of a student. I work with a wonderful group of people on our local Teammates board who work very hard to make Teammates successful here in our community. And I would like these people to please stand or wave their hand. Bev Bartuli, Linda Carroll, Sandy Kuhn, Marty Jefferson, Del Clover, Vicki Lovegrove, Val Poppert, Clark Poppert, Ben K. Skinner, and Paul Udemark. Thank you for all you do. Our regional coordinator, Allison Horn, is the person who supports our entire chapter in the central office of Teammates, and she has been a lifeline for me. Allison, if you would raise your hand or be recognized. I'm not sure where she is. Thank you for all you do for me. Finally, I would like to say thank you to the community members who have supported Teammates through the purchase of raffle tickets or bidding on the silent auction items. Good luck as the winners are chosen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Becky. Okay, here's where I'm in trouble, Coach. I was supposed to keep this short, and I'll do my best. So how do you introduce the most famous person in the state? Been done a few times, I guess. So, you all know all of Tom Osborne's accomplishments. Nebraska High School Athlete of the Year, Nebraska College Athlete of the Year twice. We have a branch in Hastings, by the way. Professional football player, National Coach of the Year, ESPN Coach of the Decade, 13 conference championships, 3 national championships, a U.S. Congressman. I'm sure you're pleased you're not there anymore, right? And I think many of you know, just recently, Coach Osborne was named to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, and I'm sure you've already had a few suggestions on how to do that too. So that's outstanding. Congratulations. I could go on and on about all his football accomplishments, but we're here to talk about Teammates. I think that's what the coach is probably most proud of, is the legacy of the Teammates organization. Not only has Tom Osborne built a legacy at the university, but he's also building a very important legacy through the Teammates organization. He and his wife, Nancy, founded Teammates in 1991, and the purpose was to provide support and encouragement to school-aged youth. The goal of the program is to make a difference in the life of a young person, and Teammates now provides mentoring to over 5,000 young people in both Nebraska and Iowa, which is an amazing accomplishment. So mentoring students with a one-to-one mentor can make a difference not only for the current generation, but also for future generations. And I can't think of a more important mission than to give our young people hope, purpose, and vision. And that's what Teammates does. Tom Osborne is much more than football. He's a man of character, honesty, honor, humility, and sincerity. As the title of his book states, Tom Osborne is more than winning. So it's my great pleasure to introduce the #1 teammate, Tom Osborne.
Thank you very much. I told all the teammates folks to stand up. That's why we had that standing ovation there. Everybody's frozen to death. And, you're all saying, I hope this guy doesn't talk very long. And so I'm not going to, but I want to thank John for the nice introduction. I've known Hugh for a long time and realize that Hugh and his family have meant a lot to this community. Nice to see Rod again, and I don't remember exactly telling Rod about academics, but I do remember this about Rod. He used to get hurt a lot, and this one particular time during spring ball, and seemed to be in a lot of pain, and I went over and asked him what was wrong. He said, when I push here, he said, I get this terrible pain. He said, when I push here, it's awful. He said, when I push here, it's excruciating. This really worried me because I didn't even know that Rod knew what excruciating was. And so we got a trainer over, and then we got a doctor, and then we called the ambulance. And we hauled him off, and they took him to the hospital, checked him over, and they found out he had a broken finger. And that's probably not entirely true. But Rod was a fine player, and I'm glad to hear that he's your mayor now. And you can tell that I'm a little older, and I'd always looked forward to being a grandfather, and it turned out to be a little harder than I thought it was going to be. My grandson came up to me the other day, and he says, Grandpa, he said, make a noise like a frog. And I said, croak, croak. It was a bad imitation, but he seemed satisfied. Pretty soon I heard him talking to my granddaughter, his little sister. He was telling her it wouldn't be long before they'd be going to Disneyland. And I called him over. I said, well, I hadn't heard anything about going to Disneyland. What's this all about? He said, Mom always says when Grandpa croaks, we're going to go to Disneyland. So anyway, being a grandfather is a little bit harder than I thought it was going to be. Well, you have a great chapter here in Geneva. And usually we have about 30-40% more kids who want a mentor than we have mentors. And so I'd like to encourage you to step up to the plate. Everybody can spare 1 hour a week, and we really need more mentors. The town of Hershey, Nebraska, not as big as Geneva, have about 120, 130 mentors, and I know that Geneva easily could hit 75 or 100. So we'd like to see that. I'm going to tell you one quick story, and with that I'll be done. And this goes back a long time ago, actually about 120 years ago. It was just a little bit before I was born. And there was a young guy who was growing up out in western Nebraska. He had been taken out there by his family to get a homestead. He went out there from Illinois. Got 160 acres of land, and it wasn't very good land, pretty sandy soil. The father of the family was a Civil War veteran, and he was also an alcoholic, and there were 4 kids in the family. So this one young man that was growing up in that family probably didn't have a great future ahead of him. But there was a circuit rider down in that area who traveled in eastern Wyoming, western Nebraska, rode around about 30 different towns, and he preached at various churches. And so he was a preacher. And this young guy got up and gave a talk at an elementary school one day, and the circuit rider happened to be in attendance. He was kind of impressed, and he got this young guy aside, He said, you could be a great preacher someday. You have an ability to do that. He said, now to be a preacher, you got to go to college. And in those days, probably only 2% of the population went to college, and usually only people from rather wealthy families. And so the odds of this young guy going to college were about zero. But every time that circuit rider came around, he looked this young guy up and he began to affirm him. And again, he said, you ought to go to college. You could be a great preacher. So they only had 8 grades in Bayard, Nebraska. Graduated from the 8th grade. Went on up to Crawford, about 60 miles away, boarding school. Finished high school, and then he got on a train, rode down to Hastings, Nebraska, enrolled at Hastings College. Was a captain of his football team. I better wait for this one gone, huh? I thought you guys but anyway, he was a captain of his football team in 1900. Spoke 5 languages, and pretty exceptional guy. Did go to seminary, and eventually spent some time in the state legislature. And when most of the ranchers out in that part of the country died, they wanted this guy to preach their funeral. Now, the reason I know a little bit about him was that this particular individual was my grandfather. And I'm sure that traveling preacher, who was essentially his mentor, made a huge difference in his life. Because if that traveling preacher hadn't singled him out and affirmed him and showed him what his future might be, my grandfather's life would have been very different. But I don't think the story really ends there, because my grandfather had 5 kids during the Depression. All 5 of them went to college, primarily because of insistence from my grandfather. That came really from that circuit rider. And so my father's life was very different because of that preacher. And I don't think the story necessarily ends there either, because there's no question that my life is very different because of the influence of that particular circuit rider whom I never knew. I know his name, I know a little bit about who he was, but I never met the guy. And so the reason I mention this to you is that as nice as this bank building is, eventually it will crumble. You can build a great business. You can do a lot of great things, but usually those things will pass away. But what you do to invest in the life of another person that in some way changes the trajectory of that life, that in some way makes a difference in how things turn out for that person, has a ripple effect that goes on forever, because that person will in turn impact people in their family, people they know, people they work with, and so it goes on forever and forever. So it is an important endeavor, and it's what I've decided to use the remaining years that I have in my life to try to promote. Nobody knows how long that's going to be, but it is important, and we'd like to encourage you to become mentors. I want to wish those of you who are mentors and those of you who are mentees the very best. And congratulations on completion of the bank. And with that, I will sit down. Thank you for not freezing to death during my oration.
Thanks, Coach. If you bear with us for just a couple of seconds, Jamie, and I think we have a check presentation. So Becky, if you and the coach could join us up here, we'll we've got a couple of cameras going, I think, and we'll make a check presentation to a teammate. So it's our coach has got more experience than I do with this. it's our pleasure to make a contribution of $2,500 to the teammates organization. And again, we know we'll use it well, and we couldn't think of a better opportunity to help promote the community. So thank you very much. We're just like a regular bank, right? We just give it and take it away, right? Every bank does that, you know? But wait, I think I forgot something. There's one more thing. I think a lot of you know that we announced a few weeks ago that we're growing. We're merging with the State Bank of Riverdale, and in conjunction with our growth, we are going to change the name of the bank, except for Don. Don's going to always call us Geneva State Bank. So anybody that wants to call us Geneva State Bank, you can always do that. But we'll be changing the name to Heartland Bank, and here's our new branding and logo. Drum roll, please. I hope you like it. So we'll do a ribbon cutting, try to get inside where it's warm. So if the coach wouldn't mind, we'll do a ribbon cutting at the front door of the bank. We'd love for you to all come in, get warm. We've got refreshments. Most importantly, we've got a raffle for teammates. So please buy a lot of raffle tickets. We've also got a silent auction, and the coach has been kind enough to autograph 7 items for us. The black helmet's my favorite. So you've got to come in. We got the black helmet right here. We got the ball, the other helmet, some other great items the coach has autographed. They're all autographed. So also, to get inside quickly, you're more than welcome to go in through the North Point Insurance door, to go in through our insurance center, or K. Marie. You can go through any of those doors to get in the bank. And again, get those raffle tickets. And a couple other things. We will announce the winners of the raffle. The coach will draw those names out about 6:20. So we'll announce the raffle winners at 6:20. We'll also wrap up the silent auction at about 6:20 and get things rolling there. And just want to remind everybody, all the proceeds of the raffle and the silent auction go to teammates. So remember, it's not about winning, it's about teammates. I gotta see teammates more often. You guys are good. So we've also got some nice gifts in the bank for all of our guests. So come on in, have some refreshments, get a gift, and we also have professional tour staff over here. So we're more than happy to give you tours of the bank. And I think that's it. So we'll run over here and do the ribbon cutting and come on into our bank. Thank you very much.